The sun hung low over the dusty town of Redemption Springs, Texas, casting long shadows across the wooden buildings that lined the main street. It was 1867, 2 years after the war had ended, but the scars ran deep in this part of the country. The air still carried the weight of old hatreds and stubborn beliefs that refused to die, even when the law said they should. Sarah Mae Johnson stood in the center of the town square, her wrists bound in iron shackles that caught the afternoon light. She was 23 years old, with skin the color of rich mahogany and eyes that held a quiet strength despite her circumstances. Her dress was simple, gray cotton worn thin from use, and her natural hair formed a magnificent halo around her face. She kept her chin raised, refusing to let anyone see the fear that churned in her stomach like a gathering storm. Around her, a small crowd had gathered. Some looked on with pity, others with indifference, and a few with barely concealed contempt. Sarah Mae had been brought here by a corrupt local official who claimed she owed debts from the plantation where she had once been enslaved. It was a lie, of course. The 13th Amendment had abolished slavery, but men like Sheriff Dalton found ways around the law. They called it indentured servitude now, gave it a different name, but the chains felt just the same. Standing at the edge of the crowd was a man named Cole Bridger. He was tall and lean, with sun-weathered skin and pale blue eyes that seemed to reflect the endless Texas sky. A wide-brimmed hat shadowed his face, and his hand rested casually on the gun belt at his hip. Cole was known throughout the county as a hard man, a former Confederate soldier who had never quite accepted how the war had ended. He owned a ranch 15 miles outside of town, a sprawling piece of land where he raised cattle and kept mostly to himself. Cole had come to town for supplies, not for whatever spectacle the sheriff had arranged. But when he saw the woman standing there in chains, something made him pause. Perhaps it was curiosity. Perhaps it was something else he couldn't quite name. Sheriff Dalton stepped forward, his belly straining against his vest, his face red from too much whiskey and too many years in the unforgiving sun. He held up a piece of paper, though everyone knew he could barely read it. "This here woman owes a debt of $600, Dalton announced, his voice carrying across the square. "That's a lot of money. She can't pay it, so she needs someone to take responsibility for her. Someone willing to work her until the debt is settled. It's all legal and proper." The crowd murmured. Most people turned away. No one wanted the trouble. No one wanted to be seen taking on a black woman, even under these circumstances. The war might have ended, but people's minds changed slowly, if they changed at all. Cole watched as the sheriff's eyes scanned the crowd, looking for someone foolish enough or desperate enough to step forward. The woman, Sarah Mae, stood perfectly still. She was not pleading. She was not crying. She simply waited, as if she had learned long ago that begging never changed anything. Something stirred in Cole's chest. He told himself it was just good business sense. A ranch needed workers, and he'd lost 2 hands last month when they'd gone north looking for better wages. He told himself it was practical. He told himself it had nothing to do with the way the woman held herself, with dignity even as the world tried to strip it away. "I'll take her," Cole heard himself say. The words came out before he'd fully decided to speak them. The crowd turned to look at him. Sheriff Dalton grinned, showing tobacco-stained teeth. "Well now, Cole Bridger. Didn't expect you of all people to step up. That'll be $50 up front, and she works for you until the debt's paid. You're responsible for her. She runs, it's on you." Cole counted out the money, his face expressionless. Sarah Mae watched him approach, trying to read something in those cold blue eyes. She'd heard of Cole Bridger. Everyone had. They said he was bitter about losing the war. They said he treated his horses better than he treated most people. They said he had no use for anyone who didn't look like him. The sheriff unlocked the chains from the post but left the shackles on her wrists. "She's all yours, Bridger. Good luck with this one. She's got a stubborn streak." Cole took the chain without a word. He turned and started walking toward where his horse and wagon waited. Sarah Mae had no choice but to follow, the chain between them like a cruel leash. People watched them go, some shaking their heads, others simply returning to their business as if they'd witnessed nothing more interesting than someone buying a side of beef. The ride to Cole's ranch took nearly 2 hours. They sat on the wagon bench, side by side but worlds apart. Cole drove in silence, his jaw set, his eyes on the road ahead. Sarah May watched the landscape change as they left town behind, the buildings giving way to open prairie dotted with mesquite trees and patches of wild grass that swayed in the evening breeze. She wanted to speak, to ask what he expected of her, but the words caught in her throat. She'd learned to be careful with words. They could be weapons that turned back on you if you weren't cautious. So she stayed quiet, her shackled hands folded in her lap, and waited to see what kind of hell she'd been delivered into. The ranch house came into view as the sun touched the horizon. It was a simple structure, built from rough-hewn timber with a stone chimney rising from one end. There was a barn nearby, a corral with several horses, and beyond that, she could see cattle grazing in the distance. It was isolated and lonely, the kind of place where no one would hear you scream. Cole brought the wagon to a stop in front of the house. He climbed down and stood there for a moment, as if gathering his thoughts. Then he reached into his pocket and pulled out a small key. He unlocked the shackles from Sarah May's wrists. She stared at him, confusion replacing the careful blankness she'd maintained. The metal fell away, and she rubbed her wrists where the iron had chafed her skin. "I don't hold with chains," Cole said quietly. His voice was rough, like gravel being turned over. "Never did, if I'm being honest." "Then why?" Sarah May started, but the question died when Cole held up his hand. "Because if I didn't take you, someone else would have. Someone who wouldn't take them off." He met her eyes for the first time, and she saw something there she hadn't expected. Not kindness exactly, but not cruelty either. "You can sleep in the small room off the kitchen. There's work that needs doing around here, plenty of it. You do your share, you'll earn your keep and more. I don't cheat people on wages." Sarah May didn't know what to say. This wasn't what she'd expected. "What about the debt?" Cole's expression hardened. "There is no debt. That paper Dalton had was worthless. He makes them up to trap people. I know that. Most folks in town know that. But the law's on his side, or what passes for law around here." He started unhitching the horse from the wagon. "You're free to leave if you want. But I'll tell you straight, you won't make it far. Dalton will hunt you down, and next time you might not get so lucky." The weight of it settled over Sarah May like a heavy blanket. She was free, but not free. She could leave, but couldn't leave. It was a prison with no walls, and somehow that was worse than iron chains. "So what am I then?" she asked, her voice barely above a whisper. "What do you call this?" Cole finished with the horse and turned to face her fully. In the fading light, his features seemed softer somehow. "I call it surviving," he said. "Same as what I'm doing. Same as what we're all doing out here." The days that followed fell into a rhythm that surprised them both. Sarah May woke before dawn and started the fire in the kitchen stove. She made coffee strong enough to strip paint and cooked breakfast, eggs and bacon and biscuits that Cole ate without comment. Then she worked. There was always work on a ranch. She mended fences, fed the chickens, tended the small vegetable garden that had gone wild from neglect. Cole worked from sunup to sundown, riding out to check on the cattle, repairing equipment, doing the 1,000 things that keeping a ranch running required. They moved around each other like two planets in separate orbits, occasionally coming close but never quite touching. Cole was not unkind, but he was not warm either. He spoke only when necessary, his words brief and to the point. He never raised his voice, never lifted a hand in anger, but there was a wall around him that seemed impenetrable. Sarah May learned to read his moods in small signs, the set of his shoulders, the tightness around his eyes, the way he'd pause sometimes and stare off at the horizon as if looking for something he'd lost and couldn't name. 3 weeks passed, then 4. Sarah May began to understand the loneliness of the ranch, the way silence could press in on you until you felt like you might disappear into it. She understood why Cole had become the way he was. This place could hollow a person out if they weren't careful. One evening, as Sarah May was washing dishes, she began to hum. It was a song her mother had taught her, a melody that spoke of rivers and freedom and the long road home. She didn't realize she was doing it until she heard the floorboards creak behind her. Cole stood in the doorway, his hat in his hands. "That's a pretty song," he said. His voice was softer than usual. Sarah May stopped, her hand still in the wash water. "My mama used to sing it." "Is she?" Cole trailed off, not sure how to ask. "Dead. 5 years now." Sarah May went back to washing, needing something to do with her hands. Fever took her. Cole nodded slowly. After a moment, he said, "My mother sang too. Hymns mostly. She had a voice like an angel." He paused. "She died during the war. While I was away fighting." It was the most personal thing he'd ever shared. Sarah May turned to look at him, really look at him, and saw past the hardness to the grief underneath. They were both people who'd lost too much, carrying wounds that never quite healed. "I'm sorry," she said simply. "Me too," Cole replied. Then he put his hat back on and went outside, but something had shifted between them, subtle as the change in wind direction before a storm. After that, they began to talk. Not much at first, just small exchanges while they worked. Cole taught her about the ranch, pointing out which cattle were due to calve, explaining how to read the weather in the color of the sky. Sarah May told him about the books she'd learned to read in secret, about her dreams of becoming a teacher someday. "You're smart," Cole observed one afternoon as they repaired a section of fence together. "Too smart to be stuck out here. Where else would I go?" Sarah May countered, hammering a nail with more force than necessary. "You said it yourself. Dalton would hunt me down." Cole's jaw tightened. "That's going to change." "How?" But he didn't answer, just went back to work with a determined set to his shoulders that Sarah May was beginning to recognize. It meant he was planning something. 2 months after Sarah May arrived at the ranch, Cole rode into town. He went to see Judge Marcus Hendricks, a federal judge who'd been appointed after the war and actually believed in the laws he was supposed to enforce. Cole told him everything about Sheriff Dalton's scheme, about the fake debts and the people trapped in servitude. The judge listened, his fingers steepled under his chin. "I've heard rumors," he said. "But I need proof. People willing to testify." "I'll testify," Cole said. "And the woman working at my ranch. She'll tell you her story." Judge Hendricks studied Cole carefully. "You know what this will mean for you, Bridger. Folks around here won't take kindly to you speaking up for a black woman. They'll call you a traitor to your own people." Cole stood. "My people are the ones who believe in doing right. The ones who think the law should mean something. If that makes me a traitor, then so be it." 3 weeks later, Sheriff Dalton was arrested. His papers were revealed as forgeries, and the people he'd trapped were freed from their fake debts. The scandal rocked the county. Some people praised Judge Hendricks for his courage. Others muttered darkly about federal overreach and outsiders interfering in local business. And Cole Bridger found himself increasingly isolated. Men he'd known for years no longer nodded to him on the street. His neighbors stopped trading with him. The minister at the church suggested he might be more comfortable worshiping elsewhere. Sarah May saw how it wore on him, though he tried to hide it. She saw it in the way his shoulders slumped when he thought no one was looking, in the longer silences, in the shadows under his eyes. "You did the right thing," she told him one evening as they sat on the porch watching the sunset paint the sky in shades of orange and gold. "Doesn't always feel that way," Cole admitted. He was whittling a piece of wood, his knife moving in slow, precise strokes. "Losing friends, losing respect. Sometimes I wonder if it was worth it." "It was worth it to me," Sarah May said quietly. "You gave me my freedom. My real freedom, not just words on paper." Cole looked at her then, really looked at her, and something passed between them that neither one could name. It was understanding, recognition, a connection forged through shared struggles and quiet evenings and the slow building of trust. "You could leave now," Cole said. "Go anywhere you want. I'd give you money for passage. Help you get started somewhere. Is that what you want?" Sarah May asked. "For me to leave?" Cole's hand stilled on his whittling. "No," he said after a long moment. "No, it's not what I want. But it's not about what I want. It's about what's right for you." Sarah May smiled, a real smile that lit up her whole face. "What's right for me is staying right here. If you'll have me, not as a worker, as a partner, someone who shares this ranch and this life with you." Cole set down his knife. "Sarah May, you know what people will say about both of us. It'll be hard, harder than anything we've faced so far." "I know," she said. "But I've spent my whole life being told what I can't do, where I can't go, who I can't be. I'm tired of living small. I want to live big, even if it's hard. Especially if it's hard." Cole reached out and took her hand. His palm was calloused from years of hard work, but his touch was gentle. "Then stay," he said. "Please stay." And so she did. The months that followed were difficult, just as Cole had predicted. There were whispers in town, hostile stares, more than one incident where someone tried to cause trouble. But Cole and Sarah May faced it together. They built their life piece by piece, sunrise by sunrise, like constructing a house from scratch. Sarah May started teaching children from the nearby homesteads, black and white alike, anyone whose parents would let them come. She held classes in the barn, teaching reading and arithmetic and geography. Some parents pulled their children out when they discovered a black woman was teaching, but others let them stay, and slowly the class grew. Cole expanded the ranch, taking on work others wouldn't touch because they refused to do business with him. He built a reputation for fairness and honesty that eventually overcame the prejudice. It took years, but gradually people came around, or at least learned to tolerate what they couldn't change. One spring evening, 5 years after that day in the town square, Cole and Sarah May sat on their porch watching the sunset. She was reading a letter from one of her former students who'd gone on to college back east. He was repairing a bridle, his hands moving with practiced ease. "Do you ever regret it?" Sarah May asked suddenly. "Everything you lost because of me." Cole set down the bridle and turned to face her. "I didn't lose anything because of you. I found something because of you. I found a reason to be better than I was. I found a purpose bigger than my own bitterness." He took her hand. "I found love." Sarah May felt tears prick her eyes. In all their years together, through all the struggle and the building and the fighting to create a life, those were words he'd never quite spoken out loud. "I love you too," she whispered. "I think I have since that first night, when you took off those chains." "I should have done it sooner," Cole said. "Should have stood up sooner, spoken up sooner. I wasted a lot of years being angry about things I couldn't change." "We all find our way in our own time," Sarah May said gently. "What matters is that you found it." They sat together as darkness fell over the ranch, two people who'd started as strangers, separated by everything the world said should keep them apart. But they'd built something stronger than hatred, more enduring than prejudice. They'd built a home, not just a house but a true home, founded on respect and partnership and love. The chains that had brought them together were long since melted down, turned into horseshoes and nails and things that were useful and good. The past couldn't be undone, the scars couldn't be erased, but they could be transformed into something new. And in that quiet moment, sitting on a porch under an infinite Texas sky, Cole and Sarah May understood that sometimes the greatest freedom isn't found in the absence of chains. It's found in choosing who you want to stand beside, in building something beautiful out of broken pieces, in having the courage to love in a world that tells you not to. The sunset faded, stars began to appear, and they sat together in comfortable silence, two hearts beating in rhythm, two lives intertwined, free in all the ways that mattered most.